Oh, horticulture. I said, well, we're a noisy group, aren't we? Everybody's having fun anyway. That's what's important. So I scribbled down a few things here that I want to go over because it was things that you want to know about me, and people have asked questions and so forth. Somebody asked me how I got started in plants, and I guess we all talk about our formative years when we're children, and my maternal grand aunt married a Canadian dairy farmer. They never had any children, but he, as was often the case in those years, 30s, 40s, early 50s, he worked with his neighbor, and they would help each other with harvesting crops and that sort of thing. And the neighbor and his family became very close friends of ours. We always called them shirt-tail relatives. But I used to go to their farm and work. From the time I was about 10 years old, I spent every summer there and loved it. So that's how I got into farming. The chickens, they had all kinds of things. They had sheep and beef cattle and dairy cattle and swine, and all the women, there were 4 brothers, all the women had flocks of chickens, and that's what I was given to take care of first, probably because that's where I could go least wrong. Anyway, I learned to love chickens, and the woman that I worked for had a shelf, a windowsill full of African violets. So I came home with leaves that first summer, and I've been growing them ever since. So that's how I got started. So, and I spend a lot of time in Canada. The Toronto Society joke about me being an honorary Canadian or being half Canadian. So often people will say, you have a sort of a Canadian accent. You may not realize that, but I get accused of that. I said, well, that's good. That's fine. So,
we know alcohol.
now you know, that's right. Yeah. Somebody else asked me how many cuttings I give away, and I never. My wife asked me a few years ago, have you ever kept track of the number of baggies that you've done? In our club, we always say when a new member joins, there are 2 things you have to buy right away. You have to buy stock in the Baggies company, and you have to buy yourself some kind of a styrofoam or other cooler to bring back and forth to meetings during the winter when the weather is bad. And so I put a piece of paper on the refrigerator in the basement, and I kept track of the baggies that I was using, and for 1 year, and I think it was 2011 or 2012, I went through about 1,200 baggies. But just sharing it at events that you go to, club members, our clubs have a blossom show every month, where you bring in a blossom of a violet or a gesneriate, and you vote. People vote on the best blossom. We have a leaf exchange. You bring a leaf, you take a leaf. All that sort of thing. We have club projects and so forth. So it's a lot of fun. We do that kind of stuff all the time. So I use a lot of baggies that way. Plus, when I go to a convention, I always take cuttings along to share with people, or a group like this, to share, because then once the stuff is in this area, you can share it among yourselves, and that's how you can do new things. And another lady in my own club asked me a while ago, where do you get all these unusual things? I said, well, you go to conventions and you have friends and, whatever. I was flabbergasted at the Gesneriate convention. Dale Martins won Best in Show with a Streptocarpus, what's her, Heartlands? No, not Heartlands. Is it Heartlands? Yeah, Heartlands canary, or polar canary.
Yes.
And she came up after the convention, we were packing plants, she came up and gave me a leaf. I didn't ask for it, but she gave it to me, and this other woman was standing there, and Dale said, oh, I'm sorry. She said, she had cut her plant down to nothing. But she said, I'm only giving this to experienced growers. And by saying this, I'm not patting myself on the back by any means, but once you establish yourself as a good grower, people are willing to share with you because they know that they're going to get their stuff out there. And that's how, that's the first thing we do. Dale got a rhizome about as big as my thumb of a plant a while ago, and 3 or 4 years ago, and she immediately broke it in 3 pieces and sent one to me and one to Bill Price. So we, that's the way you're sure that you're keeping it around and you're going to make it grow. None of us really liked it, and we're not growing it anymore. There's an intergeneric hybrid in it. He called it Dave's Tree, and it was. It grew like Jack's beanstalk, and it wasn't nothing really good about it. So anyway, let me cross off my things here as I go. I apologize for my writing on the baggies as opposed for the violet leaves as opposed to using the first class. But about 3 years ago, my computer died, and my friend who was my computer guru when we were working convinced me to go to Macintosh. And the first class, I'm a Mac user now, and I love it. The only thing I miss about PC is that I can't use first class. So I kept my old PC, and I have the old first class on it, but I can't put any updates on it because it's not receiving the emails from Joe Bruns. So now, I don't know if you all know this, but if you have an Android device, the MVL, the Master Variety List for ABSA, is available for download on an Android device, but it's not available for an iPhone because it would cost ABSA 30 grand or something to make that app, and they don't have that kind of money. But John Carter, I saw John and Judy last week. They came to the Ohio State Convention, and he said the ABSA is working to make the MVL available on the website. You'll still subscribe to it and have a password, but when it's on the website, then any computer will be able to download it and use it. So that's what we want. It'll be really nice. I really miss first class because I always make labels, and then I can. And when I prepare leaves, another question I had, some of the leaves back there may have little roots starting at the ends. The reason for that is, obviously, I can't do all that in one day. So I have a plastic tub in which I put one of those sheets of, I think they call them Jiffy Packs or something, like you get annuals in the summer and the springtime, little flimsy plastic things. I buy a sheet of them, or keep the small ones, I clean them all out, I put them in there, and then I make a paper grid that corresponds to the tub. And when I cut leaves, I put water and a few drops of Super Thrive in there and plunge that in, and then I put my leaves in there, and then you can hold them for several weeks like that if you have to. So some of these have, some of those leaf cuttings may have had roots because they were in there for a few days or a week before I got to pack them up. But it's a great way to do that if you're having a show or a sale or something. It makes it so easy because then you don't have to do each individual bag every time you take the cuttings, and they don't have to spend a long time or a prolonged period of time in the baggies. You can keep them in that tub of water, and they keep quite nicely. Let's see. With gesneriids, so far as we know, there are no gesneriids that are on the CITES list. Do you know what CITES is? Steve, I don't know.
The Treaty International Convention for
Endangered species, okay. So which helps us a lot. If you're traveling or whatever across the border, I have to pay, in New York, every state has a different fee, but in New York State, it costs me $63 to get a phytosanitary certificate. And for a while, it was like 20, and in Canada, coming home, it only cost me $12.35. Go figure, I don't know. But we have to pay that now, and everything has to be done online. It can't be hand done anymore. It has to be typed in on the website, and then that's printed out, so it's all very official looking. But it does help, when you cross the border, you're able to say that nothing is on, no gesneriids are on the CITES list, and of course African violets are a gesneriid, so we're okay with that. Somebody asked about eBay and that sort of thing. I have to tell a little story. One of the commercial, now is a commercial grower in New York State, it does a lot of eBay business. I have no problem with that. She's making a pretty good living this way. But she belongs to the Syracuse Club, and about 5 or 7 years ago maybe, Dale Martin's crossed 2 Streptocarpus hybrids, Winter Dreams and Canterbury Surprise, and they were both, Winter Dreams I think was variegate. And so she got some seed pods and she circulated them around. She sent me 7 seeds. I planted them, 5 of them came